and being a Bama thing, and I sent back a remark that I hope Alabama finds their run game. So bow with me, would you please? Dear Lord, I just thank you for this group and all the good works that Rotary does in our local areas and throughout the world. I pray for the conflicts in this world, Lord, and hope they can be satisfied and everybody can learn to live together. I pray for our local, state, and national governments that they can be wise and make decisions that will be satisfactory to everybody, and again, we can all live them forward. And in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, David. Family of Rotary, Terry Duffy.
Thank you very much, President Josh. Hope everybody's having a super day today. We got a number of birthdays and anniversaries, so let's get to the celebration. On October 17th, we got Paris Holmes, Puritan, and Stan Sessions. Alex Reynolds on October 18th. Chris Judah, the 25th. Charles Jackson and Lynn Molly on October 28th. And another pair on October the 29th is James Buffini and Valerie Russell. Anniversaries, Keith McAulty and Susan on the 21st, along with Demetrius Logan and Jane, October 21st. And Jason Jackson and Darby, October 23rd. And Bill Catherine and Miss Francis on the 26th of October. Hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Stephanie Walker, please come forward and introduce our guests.
We are happy to welcome our guests and visiting Rotarians today. When I call your name, would you please stand and remain standing until all visitors are recognized? Georgine East, guest of Walter Hill. Ray East, also guest of Walter Hill. Quinn Kreiser and Stacy Kreiser, guest of Mark Kristen. Andy Jones, guest of Lawrence Johnson. Matt Langford, guest of Josh Chapman. And Tim Goodwin, guest of Dell Goodwin. Are there any visitors that I missed today? Thank you for visiting with the Dothan Rotary Club.
We have our camp ASTA drawing by Demetrius Logan. All right, we are currently up to 2,489 points. The last four, 6068. 6068. Hey.
I said I wasn't going to put them on my
This ain't my marker. This ain't my marker. Seven of diamonds. Thank you. All right, Kelly Pilot is going to come forward and make an announcement.
All right, I bet you know why I'm here. You have to forgive my voice, it's kind of in and out. I spent the last 9 days with Mickey Mouse and about 2 million of his closest friends. And somebody in that group, I think, gave me a call to bring back to Dothan with me. Okay, our White Elephant sale is next Monday at 6 o'clock right here in this room, okay? So we will, we're going to start everything. The auction tables, everything's going to open up at 6. We'll begin eating at 6. First table is going to close at 6:45. So we don't know what's going to be on the first table yet. You don't know, so just come and see. The second table will close at 7:30. Wear your team colors. We're going back to the tailgating thing. So wear your favorite team colors and plan to have a good time. Everything is very casual. No need to dress up unless you just feel like it. But everything's very casual. Bring your friends. That is the most important thing I can say right now. Bring your friends. You can be billed and you will be billed for them later on, but bring guests. We all know that the more people that come, the more bids, the more money we raise for WRC. So please bring your friends. Your items, if you have not brought your item yet, and for some reason it's something that you're having trouble getting here and you need someone to help, Rosemary McKibben has offered to pick it up, to do whatever she needs to do. So please reach out. If you don't have Rosemary's number, reach out to me, reach out to Heather, reach out to anybody, and somebody will get you her number. But please do that if you need help getting your item here. Reverse raffle tickets. Didn't I see Alan? Alan, where are you? There you are. You still got them with you, don't you? All right. Reverse raffle tickets. The pot, remember, is $5,000. Tickets are $100 each. If you are a Rotarian, you already have a ticket. So don't worry about that. Just buy an extra ticket. So you can buy as many as you want. Totally up to you. And let's see, tickets will be drawn by name that night. So don't forget that. Just listen for your name. You don't have to worry about having a number or anything. But if you will not be here, I would suggest that you make sure that someone who is going to be here, make sure they have your cell phone number. Because once we get to the end, there's some negotiating that starts happening. And if your number or your name is at the end, and no one can reach you, unfortunately, that's going to kind of take you out of the negotiating. So make sure somebody has your number. If for some reason you have an item that you know is valued at $500 or more, go ahead and send that to me or Jenny, or you can even send it to Rosemary. Those items are typically what we try to put in the live auction. And it's just kind of nice to know ahead of time approximately what we have. So if you know you have something that is valued at more than $500, go ahead and text us that if you will, even if it's already here, just to make sure that we are aware of it. All right, Jenny, Rosemary, am I forgetting anything?
Kelly, what's the cost for a guest?
We're still charging $10 now. We all know food's gone up, so we're taking a little bit of a hit on that. So we might want to see about increasing that in the future, but right now 10. Yes, sir.
In previous years, we had a form that we would fill out when we brought our items, so that we got credit for it.
Yes.
I haven't seen that.
Yes, we did not send those out or put those in the box, but they are back in the room. They're small cards back there. I'll go back there today and make sure there's still some back there. They have some, I think Heather's got some in the front. It's just a card that where you put your name, item, and the value. If for some reason, Jenny's got them right there. She's holding them up. So if you need one, let her know. If for some reason you cannot get your hands on the card, that is the 3 pieces of information we need. Your name or the Rotarians. I know some of you go in with other Rotarians. So whoever is donating that item, what the item is, just in case it gets separated from that item, and the value. In other words, the value, if it's something that you can't really put a value on, try to give us some idea. If you went and bought it at the store, what'd you buy it for? So just give us that value. Good question, thank you. Any other questions? Anybody got anything like that we might answer? Okay, all right, I will see y'all next Monday night at 6 o'clock right here. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. I'll also remind you at the end of the meeting, but we won't be meeting next Monday, so I expect to see everybody here Monday evening for the White Elephant. Mary Beth Meadows has an announcement.
Thank you, Josh. Gosh, it sure is great to see such a full room, isn't it? So happy to see all of you here today. So you guys may remember back in August, we had a guest speaker by the name of Pam Miles, who many of you know. And literally that day, she got some really earth-shattering news and found out that she was having diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Pam is also the executive director of Exchange Center. And while I know that this is the time of year we're selling a bunch of things, their big fundraiser is this Thursday night, and they need to sell a few more tickets. And a friend of Pam's called me on Friday to ask me if I would help. I have sold a few already, but they've got 3 or 4 more tickets left to sell. They too are advertising for a drawdown. This is the drawdown to prevent child abuse for the Exchange Center. It's going to be held this Thursday. The tickets are $250, but the prize is $20,000. So there are a handful of tickets left. I've got to get them turned in today or tomorrow at the very, very latest. So if anybody would be interested, I just thought it would be such a great gesture if we could help her sell out her event, because God knows she has a lot of different things on her mind right now. If you can't buy a ticket, please remember Pam and her family in your prayers. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary Beth. All right, Margaret Futch, have an announcement you'd like to make?
Good afternoon. So I want to give an update on the Purple Pinky Donut Project. So today is the last day. We can turn my order in today. So thank you for all the Rotarians who have already purchased or donated boxes of donuts. So I look like a Purple Pinky Donut today, but I'm not nearly as sweet. You just ask Jim if you have any questions about that. But so far we have raised and sold 316 boxes today, as of today. That's about $60,000 that we will be able to donate to End Polio Now. But we can do better than that. So there are children around the world who need us to help, to support that so they can get the vaccines they need. So please, if you are interested, you can turn it into me or to Heather or to Jenny. And also, for some of you, we'll be sending bills out. So if you didn't come prepared today, don't worry. We can't bill you. We just need to make sure we get your order in today. So that we can contribute and make a great contribution from our club today. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right, everybody, place your Purple Pinky order today. We want to continue the tradition of raising the most funds in our district. So place your order today. I talked a little bit about the schedule coming up. We won't meet next week because of the White Elephant Sale. The following week, we're going to celebrate a delayed World Polio Day. So we're excited about that. And then the week after that, we're in the middle of Peanut Festival. So we're gonna meet out at Peanut Festival. So October 30th is World Polio presentation, and then November 6th we meet out at the Peanut Festival. But I'll send out another email and remind you again in 2 weeks about Peanut Festival. All right, yes, ma'am.
One other thing. And so next Tuesday, the 24th, is the pickup date. So we don't have all the details yet. So I'll be sending something out. So those who want to donate, we'll take care of that. And if you want to pick yours up, we'll send out information about that time and place. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, I am now going to turn it over to Ms. Dell Goodwin. She is going to be presenting today on some fun travel she's had recently.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell you about the Rotary International Conference that Tim and I had the opportunity to go to in Melbourne, Australia this summer. It was absolutely beyond words, I guess is what I can say. But I want to thank Tracy and Arthur Solomon for their tips for the trip, because they've been before and they both gave me some great ideas and things to do. So not only will I tell you about the Rotary International Conference, but I'll tell you about some of the travels we had going to Australia. We left Dothan, and 36 hours later, we arrived in Sydney, Australia. We flew Delta, and Delta does not fly in to Melbourne, so we had to fly in to Sydney.
but which was great because while we were there, we did a few things at the front end of our trip in Sydney. So once we got to Sydney, this is a view from our hotel room. As you can see the bridge there, the harbor bridge that they're so famous for. And of course, you're up on like the 50th floor in the room, and so you can see a lot of different things. So if you're scared of heights, it's not a fun place, but if you're not, it was absolutely beautiful. The next day, we did a behind the scenes tour of the Sydney Opera House. And it's what, as Walter Hill would say, it's funny how you meet different people on your trip, but the lady sitting next to me on the flight from Los Angeles to Sydney, her dad was one of the designers of the Opera House. So she was telling me all about that from years ago. Okay, the next slide. You can't go to Australia without getting to see Crocodile Dundee. So Tim looked over, and I mean, it was a guy that was standing there just all. We got up close to him. He said, "Get your picture with me, mate." You know, so Tim did. The next day, we did a private tour around Sydney, and we got to see the Asphalt Stadium. And this is where they had the Summer Olympics there in Sydney. Then we went down to Bondi Beach. If you look at their beaches, they're so different than ours around here. But that Bondi Beach is famous for all the surfers that go there. They also build the swimming pools up in the rocks that you can kind of see because the sharks are very prevalent there. So they build up the swimming pools up so that they don't get bit by the sharks. But they also have fences and barriers out in the water to keep the sharks away from the surfers. So that's kind of all different. But like I said, they have all these cages and barriers out there. Then that's another picture of Bondi Beach. That afternoon, as we were riding around, we came up on a group of boys that were out with their kettles raising money for the Salvation Army. So our driver said, "Would you like for me to stop and let you give them some money?" I said, "I'd love that." You know, so that, and they were very nice. Like I said, it was a Sunday afternoon, and these boys were out there trying to raise money for the Salvation Army. Okay? As you ride around all over Australia, different parts of it, their Rotary is so prevalent there. This was a Rotary Park, and you might not can see it from there, but there were 6 different Rotary clubs that are listed on this sign. It tells their meeting place and their time of their meeting. But this was in one of the parks there. We actually got to go to a wildlife area and got to touch a live koala bear and watch him eat. That was all very interesting. Okay. There's another park and another area. So after our driver figured out how interested I was in things about Rotary, every time he would see anything that had Rotary on it, he'd stop and say, "You got to get your picture with this Rotary sign." So I said, "Okay, let me out." So that was another place we got to stop. Okay, this was on one of the drives along the Pacific coast. You can see just how beautiful everything is. That was there right outside of Sydney. That's called the Blue Mountain area, and the mountains were really blue there. This is a blowhole, and the water comes up in the rocks and it goes down. I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience of getting to see what a blowhole looks like, but that is amazing to watch that. This was a jewelry store that was right next to where we stayed there in Sydney that has the largest opal in the world. It weighs over 7 pounds. It's in a safe that they lock up every day, and it's valued at over $2 million right now. We didn't purchase any of those. The next day, we flew to Melbourne that next day. So this is in Melbourne. So they had different pre-conference events that you could do while in Melbourne. And this was a Rotarian service project of packing meals to start that day. So there were probably about 200 Rotarians out there. We packed meals, you know, to be sent around. So I thought about the food bank, you know, we do there. Okay, David? Okay, then our pre-convention activity was a Rotary wine travel day, and there were about 200 Rotarians that took part in this, and we drove all through the Yarra Valley. We went to several different wineries there. We had dinner there. There was a big 3-course dinner with all the pairings of the different wines with it, which I'm not used to all that, but that was very interesting to see. But also there at the winery, that's some of the people that went with us on the trip. And the kangaroos were jumping all around in the, there at the winery there. And the guy that was our lead guide said they're not real crazy about the kangaroos there because they nibble on the vines and, you know, get into all the things there. And he told us also the kangaroos don't walk backwards, so you can't back them up. That's one thing about them. Okay, the next day was the opening ceremony for the convention. It's a combination of inspiration and entertainment. There were more than 14,000 Rotary members there, with over 120 countries represented there at the conference. The convention chair, Ariso, opened it up, and then the Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp, welcomes everybody to Melbourne. But the flag ceremony that you go back that one slide, that's them walking around with over 300 flags, and they announced them on the stage, and then they would walk across the stage and then walk among all the people out there with their flags. But it's just amazing to see that many countries represented, of countries that I've never heard of, you know. But the girl that actually carried the American flag was from, I think she was from England, and she happened to come and sit down right in front of us, so I got to meet her. But that was when they put the name of your country up on the stage, and then they walk across and carry it down. One of the featured speakers was Lima Nobi, and she's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And she credited a lot of her being able to do the things that she's done was through Rotarians taking an interest in her work and leading her and helping her get places. But she talked about, you know, her dream is for a peaceful world, but also working with girls that are depressed and also that are just oppressed too. So she talked a lot about that. Then we had a welcome address from Rotary International President at the time, Jennifer Jones. And her big thing was to tell everybody, thank you for taking time away from your families to be at the convention, and thanking everybody for a wonderful year. But she kept on, just all during her talk, was to thank you for being a Rotarian. So I want to thank all of you for being Rotarians, but it was truly great to see the things she did. Then we were entertained by a group called the Tenors. And it's a group of 4 men from Canada, which is Jennifer's country that she's from. And they were absolutely amazing, singing songs from every genre that you could think of. Just absolutely. So at the end of, when they were getting close to the end of their performance, the guitarist Brian King from Queen came out and joined them. And that was very entertaining. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And that night we had a dinner at the Natural History with our zone people. And that day just happened to be my birthday, May 28th. So they're a day ahead of us. So I got to celebrate my birthday 2 days. So it's nice to turn 70 and be in a different country. So that was awesome. But this slide shows you the House of Friendship. So I'm going to get Tim to come up and talk a little bit about the House of Friendship and tell you a couple of other things that stood out to him on our trip.
Well, we'll go back to the story of the band of tenors playing. And what happened was we become buddies with Jennifer Jones, the international president, and we become friends with her husband. And so Nick, we were talking to Nick and we said, Nick, how did all this come about? And Nick says, well, the day before the tenors played, one of the guys in the tenors knows Brian May, who was a co-founder and lead guitarist for Queen. And he says, you know what? He lives here. And they said, well, why don't you get him here? So he calls him up the day before this And he's in town, so I say, Brian, can you come out and play with us? And he says, when is it? And I said, tomorrow. And he said, well, okay, I'll be there. So he comes out that day and does the guitar, do the sound check and all like that. And at noon, he comes on stage and he, and then if you ever keep up with much music, Bohemian Rhapsody was one of their songs that they play forever. It's every concert they play. Well, that's the one they played. And of course, he got out there and ripped on the guitar. And then I looked up Brian May. I said, well, what is the deal here? When he is not rocking out on stage for the band Queen, Brian May enjoys a healthy scientific interest in outer space. But it's not merely a hobby. For the 76-year-old guitar legend gave to the stars and research of the universe. May is an accomplished scientist who has a doctorate in astrophysics, and he recently helped NASA return its first asteroid sample to Earth. I'm thinking, whoa, and then he's up there playing guitar, so that was cool, So then the picture they'll have there was the House of Friendship. Now, the first time I'd ever heard of the House of Friendship is we went to the Atlanta, when the International Convention was in Atlanta. We went there and went to Houston. So it's, she said, we're gonna go see the House of Friendship. So I'm like, House of Friendship, what is this? So in Atlanta, they had the House of Friendship, in the World Congress Center, those big, huge auditorium rooms. Well, you go in there and there's hundreds of booths. And I said, what? And so what it is all these booths from all these different Rotary clubs all around the world of all the different things that they do to promote, whether it's education, disease control, all these things that they do in their Rotary club. And this is all around the world. I couldn't believe it when I first saw that. And so then like I say, then we've seen it in Houston, and then we saw it when we went to Melbourne. It was unbelievable. Another thing that fascinated me is, you hear the speakers and, they motivate you and such as that. Well, there was a guy, Emmanuel Katungal, and he's from Uganda, and he's a former district governor. Well, okay, so he gets up to talk, and he starts showing a picture up there. His family were all peasants, and they all lived in Uganda. Grass hut peasants, dirt floor. He's got his mom and dad and 3 sisters. Okay, so they're all, the mom and dad work in the fields, and then the sisters and they do whatever kind of odd jobs they can do. Well, his dad found a job doing some construction in another city to make more money, so they thought that's cool. So he goes to the city, they're having all these wars over there and stuff. His dad gets killed. So then it's Mama and the 3 daughters and him. And Mama decides, Rotary started a school in this community. And so the three girls and he were going to this school. And Mama decides, well, we want somebody to make it. So I said, he's going to school and the 4 of us are going to work. So wow, that's pretty cool. Well, then the 3 sisters, all of them been raped. All of them been raped. One of them dies during a pregnancy and the baby dies. And a couple of years later, a couple of the other girls die of AIDS. So it's Mama and this kid. Well, he does well in school. So Rotary helps him go to a college. He goes off to this college and does well. And he comes back and he starts a pharmaceutical company in the largest slum in a city in Uganda. He starts this, and he wants to do low cost disease preventative pharmaceuticals that he can help his people. So, that's pretty cool. Well, he gets started and he starts going along. And another Rotary moment is somebody else from Rotary sees what he's doing and says, wait a minute, you need to meet these people in India. The largest pharmaceuticals people in India need to see what you're doing. And so they get them together and tie it together. And then all of a sudden he can really grow his pharmaceutical business there in Uganda. So here's some of the things, it didn't make any sense to me how well it's done. His business has grown. He's manufacturing HIV and AIDS, malaria medicines. They employ 600 professionals, and they supply medications now for 20 African countries. About 2 million people in Africa are surviving because of their AIDS medicine. Oh, really? In Uganda, they have reduced the number of people dying of malaria from over 400 per day to less than 50. And their dream, of course, is to get it to 0. And with this, he's earned the induction to the 2013 World Entrepreneur of the Year Hall of Fame. But when he spoke, he says no, and he's a major donor umpteen times over, and he's a billionaire. He said, no, I accredit everything that I've done or has been accomplished through me to Rotary, because they found me in my village. They helped me get an education, and then they helped tie me up to the people that we could do all these great things to help these people with that. It was just, I mean, it's like, it's not rags to riches. It's dirt floor to riches. But he was just as humble and as you could get. So that was an exciting event for me. And I'll tell you one more thing in a minute. And then, but you know, like I say, just some of the things that go on like that are just fabulous. And you just can't believe it. I'll tell one more thing. When we went to when we went to the one in Houston. So a guy gets up and he's talking, he says something, and I think it's an idiot. And so he goes out and what his Rotary clubs decide to do, they're going to start getting girls out of bad situations, whether they're prostitutes, drug rings, sex rings. That's what they focus on. So he's doing this, and his wife says, wait a minute now, whatever his name was, you know, you're retired, we got plenty of money, there's no need for you to do this. You're going over here and bunches of times, you know, people put a gun to his head and say, look, you're not getting this girl. And she says, why are you doing that? He says, well, just think of it this way. If that was our daughter in this situation, and some Rotarian went in and got her out, he says, I got to keep doing it, you know? And you're like, really, there's some people out here, they're doing like y'all are doing, it's great things for society, and that people need to know about it. All right, Dale, you get it.
The next 2 days, but it was just, I mean, one speaker after another, we can't tell you everything it takes so long. But this was one of the speakers, this is her slide she put up about how we remember 60,000 more times what we see than what we hear. So she was talking about how we need to make sure that in Rotary we use technology to our advantage and put things out there in print still, or send it out. But that was just really interesting, you know, to see that. Okay, this young man, I was telling somebody, said, well, where are you from? I said, well, I'm from Alabama. And he walked over to me, and he is a retired Major General from Nigeria. He said, well, I actually went to college at Jacksonville State while I was stationed at Fort McClellan, I think, up in near Huntsville. And he said, so I love Alabama because they're the ones that got me started to a great career, you know. So that was wonderful. Okay, this little boy has a Camden banner. And when I saw that, I said, I've got to take your picture because I'm from Camden, Alabama. And he said, well, this is from Camden, Australia, you know. And I said, well, let me take your picture. But then his dad walked over. He said, we want to take your picture with my son. And he gave me one of his banners, and they were from Paris, France. So I have that out there for you to see. The group at the top was a group of Interact members that were there from, I think they were from Nigeria. No, I forgot where they were from. But anyway, the bottom one, this lady and her husband, they're like 96 years old. And the gentleman came over. We were sitting there eating at the House of Friendship. And he said, my wife sent me over to get you. And I said, okay. He said, she wants to get her picture made with you. I said, well, okay, come on, Tim. If I'm going to get mine, you got to take a picture so I can bring back them, you know, of them. But they were so nice that they were from Australia. So they were just really great couple to me. This is a group that were from Nigeria. The gentleman standing next to Tim's name was Mighty Man. And later on, we met some other people from Nigeria, and they said, have you met Mighty Man yet? And I said, well, yeah, what just happened? He's famous. He's famous over there. I said, okay, well, we got to meet him. But they were telling us about different projects that they did there. Okay, polio, everywhere you went, there were different booths and different things promoting polio, just like we do here. But they also had PK. They were selling PK. He is a polio koala. you could get PK for making a $50 donation, and they only had 100 that they were selling. So I told him, we gotta get out there early, because I've got to get a PK, you know, but just, so anyway, that was another big fundraiser that they had going on that. Okay, that is in one of the, halls that we went through there. Okay, this is a little kangaroo that you can kind of see hidden. We did a Streets of Melbourne event one night too, where they had all the streets blocked off, and they had all the Rotarians were invited to that. You got to taste food at all these different places, and some of it was not real great, but it was interesting. I don't want to say not great. It was kind of like, okay, but that was fun. Okay, and before I get into that, one of the closing ceremonies, our Rotary International President this year, Gordon Napoli, talked about how he's asking members this year to make a mental health a priority. And he said the reason that he wants mental health to be such a strong priority during his year is because his brother committed suicide years ago. And he just thinks that if we put more positive emphasis on mental illness and helping people instead of putting them down, that we need to focus on that. So that was his big things. And then this was a tour that we got to do around Melbourne, and there were about 250 Rotarians that went on this trip. And this was going up to Phillips Island to see the penguins and all. But we had several buses of Rotarians that got to go, and they were from all over the world. But I'll let Tim tell you a little bit about the penguin walk that we got to see.
Well, you know, they have these tours that, you know, you can be a guy, you're like, hey, you know, but it was a big penguin parade. I'm saying, parade, how does that work? Well, then when they explained it to me and we were going out there, then I understood, well, there is a certain penguin, and he's not but about that high. He's a blue penguin, and he's blue on the back, and they're only in Australia, that part of southern Australia and New Zealand. And so what they do is go out on the bus, and then you got a visitor center, and then you go out a quarter of a mile working your way down this boardwalk, and you get down where they have a bleacher set up. And what you basically do, you get down there before sunset or sundown, and they shut off. There's no lights. They have little lights on the bleachers so you can see. But then they have the guides there down there, and there's no cameras, no talking, no nothing. We're all sitting there, and then all of a sudden, these penguins start coming out of the water. I mean, they come out like 50 or 75 or 100 of them at a time. And they start walking right up where you are, and you're like, well, they're coming, and they just walk right by us, you know, like that. And that night, 1,000 penguins came out. And so they say about 1,000 come out a night. They go up into these hills up there, and they have little burrows, and that's where they live. And then certain ones will come down the next day, and certain ones come up. But it's usually about 1,000 of them a day that come up. And they come by and chirping and all like that. And so as we're leaving, once they all get by us, then you walk back up that walkway, and you can hear them all up in the areas, they're chirping and stuff, and they got little burrows they stay in. And then an interesting part that they did say is most of the time when one of those penguins picked the mate, they stayed with that mate. So, you know, he said they didn't have divorce. So that was that on that. But it was interesting to see something different.
This was a kangaroo we actually got to see, and you can see in the little pouch, little baby. This is up at Phillips Island where we went to see the penguins. There's the penguins. And like Tim said, you can't take pictures, you know, so I have to get these on. But that's them walking up the trail, you know, this little tiny thing. We also found the Rotary Peace Park there in Melbourne. And at this Rotary Peace Park, there's a tree planted. We actually found the one planted for Paul Harris, and John Germ, a past Rotary International President, Nine Reesley, and many others, you know, as we walked around that. That was a treat to find this park, though. It took us a while, you know, trying to get there. But we got to see flower beds that they had planted in full bloom there in Melbourne, and there were other Rotary parks right there around Melbourne. But an interesting fact about Melbourne is several past Rotary International presidents have come from Australia. And the Shrine of Remembrance, which is the city's war memorial building of the shrine, was led by General Sir John Monash. And he was Australia's greatest war hero. But he was the president of the Rotary Club in Melbourne in 1922 and 23. And then an added treat with it, like I said, we had to fly out of Sydney, so we had to fly back from Melbourne to Sydney. And when we got to Sydney the night that we got there, they started their Festival of Lights, and they call it Vivid Sydney. So we got to be there for part of that. That is the opera house that I showed you at the beginning that was all white. They had all these different lights going on the museum. All the buildings had lights all over them. They also had a drone show. They had over 1,000 drones that ignited, that came up in the sky, you know, coming. They just kind of, you hear them, you're standing out there with, I don't know, maybe 15,000 people. The whole streets were blocked off. They had all the vendors. They were selling things. It was like it's a really big deal there in Sydney. People fly in from all over to come to this. But that was amazing to see that. But you're standing there, and all of a sudden you hear, woo, and that's all the drones coming up. But that's another picture of the Opera House there. And then the drones, they made all kind of different things with the drones. They did flags, they did the world, they did Superman, they did all kind of things with the drones all over. But that was all interesting. And then we stayed at one of the Marriotts there in Sydney, and so we got to be friends talking to the guy that was the maitre d' there, concierge. And he was telling us about how he really appreciated what Rotary does around the world and how great it is. He was talking about his religion and when he was saved and all. And so then we came back through and stayed at the same Marriott. He said, we came walking down to go get something, and he said, oh, Miss Goodwin, he said, I am so sorry. And I said, oh, what happened? He said, Billy Graham's grandson's staying here, and I was going to introduce you to him, and he just walked by, walking outside, and catch his cab and going somewhere. And I thought, oh, I said, well, Tim, we'll sleep good tonight. We know we're in a place that's, we got prayers over, you know. So that was all really good. But there were so many things that we got to see. I know I probably need to hush, but I bought a piece of luggage over there. People kept telling us, you need to go get this luggage that's made here. It's called July, and get your piece of luggage. So we went to found a little shop, and I got my nice piece of luggage. We got back to the motel, and we were leaving the next morning. So I put the suitcase on the bed, you know, starting to put my stuff in it. Well, it's locked. I can't get it open. I thought, oh gosh. So Tim said, well, we'll just have to get back on the train or whatever and go back to the store. And I said, well, let me call and just see if they're still open, you know, or whatever. So I called, and the gentleman that sold me the piece of luggage, he said, now, where did you say you were staying? And I told him, he said, well, Miss Goodwin, I'm on my way over there to the hotel, and I will help you with your piece of luggage. Y'all, he came over there, opened it up, and just, I mean, that's just, you meet so many nice people, and his granddad was a Rotarian. But it's just strange how you get into certain things. But I want to thank you, the Dothan Rotary Club, for giving me the first opportunity to get to experience all these great things. And it's been wonderful. But this is a little clip from the show. If we can. I gotta remember we recorded all this stuff. Thank you. Do y'all have any questions? I don't know if I can answer them. Okay. Thank you again.
Dale, Tim, thank you all very much for sharing your travels with us, giving us a sneak peek. And most importantly, thanks for representing our club and our district so well. We're truly blessed to call you friends. Like I mentioned before, next week we won't be meeting during the lunchtime hour for our standard meeting. We will be meeting at 6 o'clock for the White Open Cell. So I hope to see you there. Thank you to all the guests that are present with us today. Good showing by the guests, good crowd here today. Always good to see. Reminder: if you're a board member, we'll have a board meeting immediately following this meeting. With that, please stand for the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do,
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all?
shine the light of Rotary.